Welcome to the Sunflower Conversations.
When some days get a little tough, we'll help you find that song and lift you up to get you through to your sunflower blues.
Content warning. In this episode, we discuss female genital mutilation and cutting, FGMC, which includes references to physical trauma and violence against women and girls. Some listeners may find this content distressing, so please listen with care and take breaks if needed. If you've been affected by any of the issues raised, please seek professional healthcare support. We will be adding advice for support in the show notes. Today, the Sunflower Conversations is coming to you from the Vavengers office, which is in central London. So my name is Chantal and I'm the host, and our discussion today is going to be about female genital mutilation and cutting. The acronym for that is FGMC. Joining me to talk about this extremely sensitive topic is Sema Gornall, who is the CEO of this amazing charity, the Vavengers. One of the strap lines on your website is the Vavengers is a survivor and women-led movement committed to ending female genital mutilation and intersecting violence against women. And first of all, I'm going to give a visual description to support accessibility. I'm wearing, well, first of all, I'm a female. I've got brown skin, long brown curly hair with glasses. I'm wearing a supporter wristband, and I've got a white blouse on. Sema, thank you so much for welcoming me and the Sunflower community to your charity today. First of all, could you please give a visual description?
Okay, that would be very hard. I guess I'm a mid-height woman and wearing a gorgeous Michael Kors jacket, I would like to believe. It makes me feel very, very happy. Wearing white trousers, a white top, and I have blonde highlights on my hair.
Beautiful, thank you. So FGM, a topic that's not discussed broadly in society, and that's what your charity is seeking to do, is to support women who have suffered at the hands of this. Is that right?
Yeah. So we support women and children because, you can't just support children because the FGM mostly happens to children. And our objective is to ensure that the mums who are survivors are also recognized as survivors themselves, and they receive the support so it's sustainable for them to actually keep their children safe. Because it's not something like, oh, just don't do that, it's bad. People know it's bad. They don't want to do it to their children. So that's one of the biggest misconceptions that we're actually fighting, because in the front line in the communities, we see so much. People want to end FGM. People don't want to leave their children in, the suffering hands of forced marriage. But these things happen because of the other surrounding issues, like often poverty. I've never met a survivor of FGM who's only survived FGM. Okay. So we're trying to address all those issues so that women can keep their children safe.
So it's quite complex. And what is the occurrence of it globally and in the UK?
Well, what we know of is 230 million women and girls alive today. Those are the numbers published by UNICEF last year. But these are the numbers that we know of. We can only estimate. But the true scale of FGM remains very much unknown because there's no data collection on this issue. This is not something that healthcare professionals, either in the UK or globally, routinely ask women and children. Okay. Have you been subjected to FGM? That's not a question that we ask. Although we have, successful HIV screening, other areas of health in women's health where we are quite successful globally, but it's not something that is prioritized. But then when you look at the child marriage data, the women who've been subjected to marriage before they were 18, today, women who were before 18, who were married and children, is 1 in 5. So if it happens to almost always same group of women and girls, we think it could be as high as 1 in 5 instead of the 5% of the population, female population that we know of. It's quite a big issue, I would say.
Yeah. It's a cultural procedure.
So that's one of another misconceptions that we actually try to educate people. I'm so glad you brought it up, because people often think it has something to do with culture. But when you look at FGM, it happens in Russia, it happens in Somalia, it happens in, Middle East, it happens all over the world. It's a truly global issue. So when you look from that perspective, how could that be cultural or religious? Because, it's literally happening everywhere. I do think FGM happens and exists because of the anti-rights movement that exists in our societies and the rights against women.
Okay.
So it's very much a gender issue, I would say. And there is demand to this. We see young boys who are being, pulled into what we call red pill podcasts, right? And then they listen to these. And there are loads of men who actually promote this ideology. And then there are these young people who then go and demand it from, I won't marry a woman who's not cut. So what do you do? If there's no demand, this wouldn't happen. But there's absolutely no reason to do this medically. You would just not see us cutting off our, hands or arms, but the harm is equivalent to that, the disability arm, because you're losing so much of your nerves. There are so many researchers that show, on the female genitalia, we have over 10,000 nerve fibers.
Wow.
It's one of the most sensitive areas of our body. So imagine when that's cut off, you can only imagine the medical damage that you are living with. It's a very serious disability, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. And completely hidden.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like some people will question why FGM is a non-visible disability in terms of, and this is just down to education and lack of awareness, which is why we're doing this podcast today. Some people might think, well, that's just that's a procedure that happens, and then it happens, and then you can then live a normal life, but you have had a horrible operation. Can you tell me why it is the outcome of actually undergoing a procedure?
Well, consequences of FGM is huge. So sometimes I will meet some survivors who will come to our hubs thinking their FGM wasn't as, so-called severe. They will be like, oh, I've only had type 1. It's not a big deal. I feel for the women who had type 3. Mine is not that bad. They're trying to minimize it in their heads. But then when we take them through our health workshops, the support groups and networks, mental health support, they then remember things, and then they actually realize, actually, the harm that I'm surviving wasn't even visible to me. And I was living in my body, not noticing the harms that I'm living with. So, long story short, again, I've never met an FGM survivor who is not facing some sort of consequence, whether that's physical or mental health. But, in terms of, mental health medical perspective, it's one of the greatest forms of torture that you can actually survive. And, 1 in 4 cases is done by health professionals. So that's quite concerning that this is something that's subjected to women and girls by health professionals, or, the rest is done by so-called, they call themselves practitioners.
Yeah.
But it's not seen as a disability, because I do think one of the reasons is because we don't fully understand, as a global society, we don't understand our female anatomy. There are not that many researchers. You could even look at the first time blood was used on period products, to test a period product, was 2023.
Right.
And we've been wearing pads all along.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're investing in understanding female bodies. And if we did, my God, everybody would be shocked at, the damage that FGM causes. And it also kills women and girls. Every 12 minutes, a girl child or a woman around the world dies because of the injuries sustained by FGM.
I mean, it's absolutely mind-blowing to know that the prevalence of it is so high. And even though these healthcare practitioners or specialists, so-called specialists, they are the ones performing this procedure, that they continue to do that when the deaths are so high, you know.
And then we have labiaplasty, which is a modernized version of this.
Okay.
And it's one of the number 3 plastic surgeries in, around the world. People go and seek the surgery in, I think they just want to so-called perfect their body, given to the norms that is created by, I don't know, social media, the harmful people who do run these, so-called podcasts that I mentioned. And when they do have these surgeries, we also have a lot of clients who come to us and they're like, well, I don't think I'm an FGM survivor, but I've done this surgery and I'm living with the consequences. And I looked at your website. It looks like what I have done to myself is FGM, but can I even say that? So they don't even see themselves as a survivor of FGM, even though there's no difference. You can look up a labioplasty. It's a form of, FGM, and they will do all type 1, type 2, type 3. But the name will be modernized and marketed as, nipping, tucking, this will make you feel after childbirth. You're going to look so great. Husband stitch is another one. It's going to improve your sexual pleasure. All lies. If you're cutting off body of a part, part of a body where you have 10,000 nerves, how could that ever improve your pleasure? But again, if we don't know that to begin with, you would just go in and with closed eyes, just do that surgery, go ahead thinking it's going to help you because you're at a low point either mentally or you're seeking approval because you don't think you're born good enough.
Yeah.
And it's not something that we can minimize, like a boob job. The damage is just incomparable. You can't compare. There's no way. So, and because we don't walk around nude, it's invisible. Who's going to know?
Yeah.
You are listening to the Sunflower Conversations. Remember to hit subscribe.
You mentioned about sanitary towels before. Can you talk a little bit more about what that and the other sanitary products that people are available, like tampons and moon cups, for an FGM survivor? What would that be like?
I mean, I have never been able to give away tampons or moon cup, or we don't even stock them anymore because no survivor of FGM is interested in them. Or maybe I just haven't met someone who's willing to do that. Because I think, you have a huge trauma surrounding your genitalia. We have hosted sexual pleasure workshops, for example, where we hired sex coaches and brought women in a safe space where we taught them how to map their genitalia. It's because there's so much stigma and, trauma surrounding that area of your body that you just don't want to even think about it. And that was us trying to talk about, self-pleasure, even things like, where is what? How are you supposed to be if things were not, taken away from you? Just giving a bit of education. But yeah, pads are the only products that we can actually give away. But also in terms of pads, we were so lucky to get so many donations. We have received organic, pure cotton, really good pads in the last, I would say, 2 years. And the difference and the feedback we got was actually huge because people said, it doesn't scratch me and hurt me so much. And there are so many women who actually live with ongoing pain in their genitalia that what you wear, where you sit down, very much makes a difference. So another thing that we ask our providers is that actually we're saying, can you give us this particular brand and that product because we got such good feedback. But things like moon cup or pads, the tampons.
Yeah.
Out of question. It doesn't land well, no.
I was talking actually about the sanitary products recently with somebody who's got a young daughter who's just started menstruating, and we were saying it, but actually it's very difficult to find one that's not plastic, or man-made fibers, and actually that's such a sensitive area.
They're very expensive. Yeah, the small pack of 10 of the good ones that I'm talking about, the organic ones, I think they're like £4.50 a pack.
Oh, that's a lot.
I mean, we're so lucky that we get it for free and give it away to our community. But imagine if you were to buy it. I mean, that's another subject. I would like period products that are organic and non-toxic to be available, like a vending machine. Just we should be able to go to a GP and just take that and toothpaste and shampoo and soap. Like these are just basic human dignities that we all deserve. And it's not like we can stop bleeding unless you're on birth control. But then even that, not everybody has access to that. But I think there's so many complications around periods and FGM survivors. I mean, some type of the FGM that they subject women and girls to, that you can't even have your period freely. With type 3, we've seen a lot of women who said it's not coming out. And there are cases where they have to remove the blood surgically. And, who wouldn't want to just be able to... It's already a very difficult thing to go through, your period.
Yeah.
And imagine your blood is not even coming out properly, and because the tiny bit of hole that they leave in type 3 is actually impossible to bleed out of or wee out of. So the FGM specialist people, the healthcare professionals, they're very important. We don't have enough of them. I mean, we are campaigning for every health professional to be actually really well trained about this. Not that they will be providing, surgeries like reconstructive surgery or any other surgery, but even I would say the cleaning staff in a hospital makes a huge difference, because when they are cleaning the bathroom, we've heard from survivors that they were crying and the cleaning staff came and was like, well, why are you crying? Are you okay? Can I take you to someone I know in this hospital? I think they can talk to you about this issue. But it's because that particular cleaning staff was actually trained about FGM and was able to, this woman has been there a long time and she's weeping and let me check in on her. Whatever this is.
Yeah.
Are you struggling? It sounds like you're struggling. Do you have a health issue? And then she's telling her, we have actually a specialist in our hospital. You can go talk to that person. So often we do hear stuff. So I wish everybody was trained about FGM, because they're huge. Like I said, 1 in 5 could be the numbers that we're working with.
Yeah.
But it's not something that anybody is actually educated on.
And as you said, it's the emotional and mental trauma of that will just, I would imagine, stay with you forever. And like a simple human response of having a period or having a wee isn't something that, I really think about, it's just something that I'm able to do. And so then not to be able to share that maybe with your colleagues or your friends at school or what you're going through, there must be a lot of shame and...
I think shame and stigma are huge. So this is why, we have vagina and vulva accessories around. We are very body positive, the genitalia positive. I would say we do use the word female genitalia. We're like, well, shall I say that word? We're like, yeah, go ahead and say it. We actually do encourage people. Sometimes we even in our workshops, let's scream vulva, vagina, genitalia, like all these words that are supposed to be shameful. We try to make it okay to talk about that, because, I've met women in their 50s who've never said the word genitalia. I've given an interview to a news channel, funny enough, and I was talking about this nerve fibers and the damage in the medical sense. And they cut off the word genitalia after they published it. And you can tell a 4 or 5-year-old, this is where your genitalia is located if you were to teach them about their bodies.
And it's important that this education isn't just for women, right? It's important that it's for everybody to get that understanding about women's bodies, genitalia, and also to hopefully prevent these people that are watching these podcasts that you mentioned, that are sending them down a very, very dark road into what the expectation is of young women, young girls.
And in order to end FGM, I would say men and boys need to be champions, because this is the male-led violence. Like I said, if there wasn't demand, this wouldn't happen. It's done by women, to women and girls, in order to please men. So actually, men can't be like, well, I have nothing to do with this. I didn't know. But no, it's being done for you.
Yes.
You have to play a bigger role to actually fix the situation so that you can safeguard the next generation of, girl children. And what we see is a lot of men and boys in the UK context, for example, still don't know much about period of a girl. They don't know about puberty of a girl child. They don't know much about women's bodies. It's not really taught, like I said. And if you were to ask a question, I see these interviews all the time where charities about body positivity, they ask young boys and men, and some of them are like in their 50s, grown men, where would the period blood come out of? And they don't even have the answer. And one of them was, oh, I've been married all these years. I didn't know. And I'm married to a woman. And people just went, wow, so your wife has been having, and he was like, yeah, she's been having periods and I had no idea. And that just really blows my mind, that kind of response that we get.
It's only been recently that young women and girls would be confident to say that they had a period. It used to be that you'd kind of tuck something up your sleeve when you were in school and sort of say, oh, I need to go to the toilet, and be incredibly embarrassed that you were menstruating, that you were having your period. or you wouldn't ask when your partner or a male, could you pick me some sanitary towels up from Boots? That was, women wouldn't have done that. So things are moving now in the right direction, but we're so far behind in not being embarrassed about our bodies. It is what it is, We're human, and it's all part of being human. So yeah, the conversation really does need to dial up. And so we were talking about the non-visibility of it, for sort of mentally and physically. What do you think about the sunflower as a method of letting other people know that the wearer's got a non-visible disability?
Well, first of all, I'm a sunflower user. I use the disability lanyard and I have a card all the time because I travel a lot for my work, and travel can be quite a lot. It takes me sometimes 2 weeks to reset and actually feel okay after traveling. And what I find is, obviously you could use it on public transport. You could even just wear it and walk around to let people know you have a disability, and they just need to be more helpful to you, be more understanding. I found airport experience actually quite life-changing, and there are signs, so you don't really need to have the language skills either. So I find it actually quite life-changing, and it makes the experience so much better.
People at the airport respond to you when you're wearing the sunflower?
I think they take their time and they are more helpful. They're not rushing. Because you can see sometimes in the airport, especially on really busy days, people get flustered. And I wouldn't want to be a staff member at an airport to start with, because sometimes they're processing thousands of people. It's very difficult. But the minute they see that, particularly the UK airports, chef's kiss, it's really good. They actually change their tone. You can see they're being much nicer to you, and it just makes you feel, okay, this is actually really nice. But there's no way on earth you will be able to see I have a form of disability just by looking, because I look quite healthy. I look, fit. I can walk around, but it doesn't mean just because you walk around and you look okay that you're okay on the inside or, mentally. So I'm a huge advocate of, and I don't know who founded it, but yeah, I would love to thank them.
I will pass it on. It actually started at an airport at Gatwick for those precise reasons, to help the passengers whose needs weren't immediately obvious, because what's the statistics? I think globally it's 1 in 6 has a disability, and it's estimated that up to 80% of that would be non-visible. So they were like, we've got a lot of passengers who either aren't travelling or who are travelling and are really struggling. So that's where the genesis for the sunflower began.
And I think there's also shame in disability, that, I am guilty of this. I felt so shameful of my disability for a long time. I've had severe health issues since I was a teenager. And, you would have medical professionals telling my mom, don't bother sending her to university because she's just going to fall into pieces with the state of her, vitals. It's not looking great. But I mentally pushed through, and, I said, no, I will be part of the society and I'll be part of the workforce, whatever adjustment I need to make. I have a lot of adjustments. I love living like a princess life. I have cushions. I sleep with particular weighted blankets, because you learn so much about wellness. But there's still shame. Every now and then I still feel shame that, you have to have a surgery every now and then. Something goes wrong and it may not seem as big. And I'm like, oh my God, how will I explain this to people? Because it's not like a open heart surgery. It's not something that people know so much about that it's even difficult to explain yourself. And I think with FGM, that's why hidden disabilities badges are so handy, because we have been handing loads of them at our hubs to FGM survivors. And a lot of women were like, well, I don't have a paperwork saying I'm disabled. I don't think I can even explain to the healthcare professionals that this is disability. I can't sit for too long, or I can't stand for too long. I need special measures. And she's like, it's impossible for me to travel. But this is a game changer. There are so many survivors who regularly give us feedback saying that since they've received the badge, their experience of, traveling on a public transport just to home from work just massively improved, because they don't have to explain. They don't have to look pregnant, or they don't have to look sick or, elderly in order to get a seat. People just see the badge and they just offer them a seat. And it's really nice for them to be able to have that support.
Yeah, exactly. because there is so much, I think as a society, we look and we judge people, sometimes consciously or unconsciously, and we make a judgment as to whether that person, if they're young, well then, there's nothing wrong with you, and why are you sitting in a priority seat? And you just don't know the pain that person's experiencing. You can't get inside somebody else's body and feel their emotions and pain points. So I was going to ask you about different instances where the sunflower would be valuable, but you've mentioned, so public transport and at work.
Yeah. So, we make adjustments as and when needed. But, you can see even mental health-wise, this office is designed very colorful. We always keep it warm because, we're women-led, 95% women in the office. We're all cold, let's face it.
Yeah.
We have been cold forever. We have low lights, so we never use the violence of the ceiling lamps. Oh my God, that should be legal.
Yeah.
We always have good coffee, tea, some nice snacks. And if people need to take a break, at the back we have a wellness corner with a very supportive cushion that you can put actually heated pads in. We have heated eye masks. We have sound bowls, so you can just go and take a nap, and there's no shame in you doing that. No one will actually question if you want to not come to work that day and work from home. So I think workplaces need to be a little bit more. Just because you can't see something doesn't mean it's there.
Yeah.
And anyone who's disabled will understand this. If you're having a pain-free day, you actually do question, wow, oh my God, is this going to last? Is this how it's for everybody else? And I go around asking my husband and my friend, I'm like, is this how you live? And you're not about to die. And they're like, yeah. Okay. So it doesn't hurt. And you actually go and do your gym, and it could look like that. You could be a hyper person. I cycle to work, but that doesn't mean that I'm not in pain.
Yeah. You're pushing through every day, aren't you?
And there are some days where I can't leave the bed, and that's okay. You're in pain. You're in pain, and you have to just do what it takes. You have to go to sauna, or maybe just take a bath, whatever helps you if you have access to these things.
Yeah. And if you're working in a traditional office environment, that's not open to you, is it?
No, even the type of shoes, sometimes they put on you, you have to wear these types of shoes. And
yeah.
Yes, but the types of shoes that you wear affects your posture. And I wear a heel quite regularly because I, like wearing them and I find them comfortable. But if, I've had a surgery recently, for example, on my foot, and I should be able to wear flat shoes for a few months if I want to, or just forever. I think we boss people around too much at workplace.
Yeah.
But then people don't have the courage to actually come and say, actually, these are the things that are affecting me. What we did and worked for us was we held a focus group, and every kind of disability was like a disabled circus in here.
Okay.
We had different types of disabilities, and everyone's like, I need this, I need that, I need that. The only thing is our building is not accessible by lift because they removed the lift, which is very annoying.
Right.
But that's the only thing. Other than that, I think we are actually trying to respond to everything else.
It's a really, really nice environment. I travelled up by the train and tube. It's raining outside, and so I was kind of wet and a bit flustered when I came, but as soon as coming through the door, it's like you say, it's all subtle things, but they actually contribute to just dialing everything right down, making you feel calm. You're in a nice space, which is not frenetic. So yeah, that's what we have to do. We have to have conversations. We have to open dialogue. The sunflower is a great tool for doing that. And wearing it at work when companies join and become members, it just enables people to actually have a conversation and feel that they're in a safe space doing it. So yeah, it's really important. So anybody listening to our chat today, where can they find you, and what sort of support and advice can Vavengers offer?
So you can find us on the Vavengers.co.uk or on our social media. What we can offer is we offer quite extensive support to survivors or those at risk. So you could email us the number one request we really get is legal support. So people are going through things and, they don't have the financial situation to actually fund that, problem. And we refer women and their children to, legal support, be for, divorce or modern slavery claims, for any kind of situation, housing, Some people have problems at work. So we're not like, what does that have to do with FGM or, forced marriage? No, we're just going to help survivors of any form of gender-based violence. You don't even have to be FGM survivor, because we have a quite big network of, lawyers. Obviously, we're in the middle of the City of London. We have access to financial firms, to legal firms, and we do use that, kind of power sharing with our community. I have seen the biggest request of support being housing and legal last year. So women need safe housing, they need a good job, they need to divorce often, to say no to violence, because you can't just get up and say no to violence. We can offer safe spaces. We host monthly workshops. I mean, today we have a henna workshop where we will do henna on our hands, and I won't be doing that because last year I did it and it didn't go away for 2 months. And people were like, did you vote? Because I was so bad at coloring my fingers. But people will be doing henna. We'll talk about gender-based violence. We'll talk about issues in their families, their health, their well-being. It's very important for us to talk about these things. And then as and when we can help, often a lawyer goes a long, long way.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of really lovely human beings who work in law firms, and they want to do something meaningful. They want to support a survivor. So I think as well as that safe space and the confidence building, we also offer a community to meet with each other. So often we'll see someone coming on their own, really shy, holding on to their bag. And in an hour, they're best friends with everyone, exchange numbers, and they have mom groups or friendship groups. So I think we do offer that in a really nice, curated space.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's connection. It's connecting with somebody else who's been in a similar scenario to you and travelling down a similar path to you, when I would imagine you felt very, very alone up until that point. So.
And it's not something you can talk about with someone you've just met. Often what survivors tell us is, if I am to talk about my FGM story, the first reaction is, God, I don't know how to help you, because that just sounds so severe that I don't even know how to respond to you. So it's not something they bring up at work.
Yeah.
It's not something they bring up to the friends they know for years. A lot of survivors just will not even talk about that or any other form of gender-based violence. They'll go through years and years and years not talking about it. So I think we make that point very easy. But when you met people who've been through exactly what you're feeling, I think the peer support to me is the number one thing that I'm very proud of that we offer at Vavengers, because I literally see women I've met going from feeling very shy and shamed to being these fantastic, outgoing human beings who have received the help and support themselves, but then they are there for the community. The next workshop, they'll come with a cake and tea and say, well, how can I help others? Because I feel so confident now, and I actually got rid of that shame that I'm talking about. I think it never goes away 100%, but it's good to be around people. Because, they are along the journey. It's like, I know people who have lupus, for example, and they're in their late 40s. And I'm like, has this happened to you before? And, she's like, oh, yeah, that started happening to me in my 30s. This is exactly what you're going to do. So I think it's really good to have that peer support, especially on a subject where even survivors struggle to wrap their heads around because it's so complex.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it sounds like a beautiful, beautiful thing. And then this is a global issue. So when we do the show notes, we'll try and include some global support groups as well. But for the UK, you're headquartered here in London, but are you reaching out to the community across the UK?
So our direct support, if it's online, anyone could email and ask for stuff, then we'll try to link them. But our in-person workshops are in London. It's because we're a very small charity. And globally, we do work with a network called Global Action to End FGMC. And every charity from different continents who works on FGM is actually a member of that. So people can look that up and see what charity is in their region, because we do campaigning work together. They will have the knowledge and the support points in their local countries. It's a really good network.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Sema. This has been really, really actually mind-blowing, upsetting. It is really upsetting to hear and to kind of visualize what young girls and women are having to go through. But I mean, all power to you and your volunteers and everyone that works with you, because, you're doing an amazing job.
Yeah, and if anybody's in London and they want to volunteer, they can always reach out and we'll find them a role to play in this nice place.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you are concerned about any of the subjects discussed in the podcast, please follow up and seek support from your healthcare practitioner. Thank you for joining the Sunflower Conversations podcast. Remember to hit subscribe.
You don't have to say why, you just need more time. Like a field of dreams full of seeds that need love and care to grow. Those yellow petals that follow the sun, giving everyone a bit of hope. When some days get a little tough, we'll help you find that sun and lift you up to get you through. Do your sunflower